It wasn't supposed to work. Not without funding. Not without laptops. Not without food, rest, or a proper roof over their heads. But Safe Space was growing. Quietly, like a spark in a dry forest. By the second week after launch, the site had over 900 visits. More than 150 tutoring sessions booked. Dozens of students offering to volunteer. And still, nobody knew the full truth. Behind the glowing screen was a startup built in the shadows. Sade still lived in the library. She still waited for Mama Clara to fall asleep before sleeping behind the archives. She still brushed her teeth in the public bathroom. Ate Gary with sugar when she could afford it. Yet now, she had more responsibility than ever. Students were emailing her for help. Volunteers were waiting for direction. Her inbox was overflowing with urgent requests and desperate stories. Every day felt like a storm. But she didn't drown in it, she rode harder. One afternoon, a message popped into the Safe Space inbox. Good day. My name is Professor Dairo from the Faculty of Education. I'd like to learn more about Safe Space. Kindly let me know if we can meet this week. Sade read it 3 times. Then sat back, stunned. A professor. Interested. She replied with trembling fingers, setting a meeting for Friday afternoon. But inside, panic brewed. What if he finds out, she asked Tamuno that night. About the hiding. The living situation. Everything. Tamuno tapped her gently on the shoulder. You think Apple started in a mansion? Or Twitter in a palace? We are not ashamed. We are real. Sade smiled, but her stomach still felt like a tight knot. Friday came too fast. She wore her cleanest shirt, light blue with small wrinkles she tried to iron with her hands, and borrowed a pair of flats from Tamuno. She walked into the professor's office like her legs weren't shaking. Professor Dairo looked up and smiled warmly. You're younger than I expected, he said, gesturing for her to sit. Sade sat. He flipped open his laptop. I've read the reviews. The feedback. The student activity. It's impressive. Very grassroots. Very real. Sade nodded silently. But I must ask, he continued, how are you managing operations? I don't see any official support. No registered business. Sade hesitated. She could lie. Or she could risk telling part of the truth. We are still in early development, she said carefully. We are bootstrapping. Mostly student-led. Peer-driven. It started as survival. His eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, but curiosity. Tell me more. So she did. Not everything, but enough. How she and Tamuno had created Safe Space with no money, 1 laptop, and the help of volunteers. How they had used free tools to connect students to tutors and emotional support. Professor Dairo listened closely. When she finished, he leaned back. You know what you've done? He asked. Sade shook her head. You've created a movement. You just don't know it yet. The next morning, Safe Space was featured in a student-run digital magazine under the headline. From Struggle to Solution, The Rise of Safe Space. It was meant to be a good thing. And it was, until it wasn't. By Monday, Sade's inbox was full again, but this time with questions from staff. Someone from Student Affairs asked for her ID and address for verification. A hostel officer dropped a comment under the Safe Space page. Interesting project. We should find out where these founders reside. Her body went cold. They were getting close. Tamuno's eyes widened as she read the messages. If they find out you live in the library. Sade didn't respond. She already knew. She had always known this day might come. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat up behind the archive wall, notebook in hand, thoughts racing. Do I hide deeper? Do I run? Do I stop safe space before it's taken from me? Then she thought of Remy. Of Corid. Of the girl who emailed saying, I almost took my life. Safe space gave me a reason to stay. Sade clenched the pen tighter. No. I won't disappear. Not now. The next day, she stood in the middle of campus and looked around. Students walked past her laughing, talking, holding books and coffee. She felt invisible and powerful. Because only she knew what it took to still be standing. That night, she made a decision. We are going public, she told Tamuno. What do you mean? I mean, we stop hiding. They rewrote the About page on Safe Space. For the first time, they shared their full story. Not the clean, polished version, but the raw one. 2 girls. No money. Living in shadows. Building something that mattered anyway. They titled the page. Built from broken things, the real faces behind Safe Space. They published it with shaking hands. And waited. By morning, the page had 3,000 views. Then 6,000. Students shared it. Professors commented. Someone even tweeted. This is what real leadership looks like. These girls deserve the world. Sade got a call later that day from a woman she didn't know. Hello, am I speaking with Sade? I'm Mrs. Ekinwell, Director of a Youth Innovation Hub in Lagos. We'd like to sponsor you. Are you free to talk? Sade nearly dropped the phone. In one night, the shame she had carried turned into power. Not because she had escaped the struggle, but because she had owned it. Safe Space wasn't a secret anymore. It was a startup born in the shadows, now rising in the light. They called her Sade the system breaker in an article that went viral. It was written by a journalist who had heard about her story through a Safe Space volunteer. The headline was bold, almost rebellious. She slept in a library. Now she's building what universities couldn't. The story exploded. By morning, her inbox was full, requests for interviews, offers for partnerships, even a message from a global foundation that wanted to fund Safe Space across all of West Africa. But what made Sade sit quietly, staring at the screen with trembling fingers, wasn't the fame or the offers. It was the thousands of comments underneath the article. I was ready to drop out. Sade gave me hope. She showed us we don't need to be rich to be seen. I'm a single mom in Zaria. My daughter now learns through Safe Space. Sade closed her laptop gently and looked out the window. The world was finally watching. But now, she had to deliver. The next few months moved like a dream on fast forward. She and Tamuno built a proper tech team, 3 other students from across Nigeria, all from poor backgrounds, all hungry to create something lasting. They registered Safe Space officially. Launched an app version. Created mentorship channels, career webinars, and mental health check-ins. They weren't just tutoring anymore. They were teaching students how to survive life. How to fight depression, how to budget, how to heal, how to grow. Safe Space became a movement. One day, Sade stood in front of 300 young girls at a conference in Abuja. She was the keynote speaker. She wore a plain Ankara dress, no flashy makeup, no expensive shoes. But her presence filled the hall. She told them her story. The accident that took her father. The night she first slept behind the library wall. The night she almost gave up. The night she chose to build instead. And when she finished, the hall didn't clap politely. They stood. All of them. Clapping with tears in their eyes. After the speech, a girl about 14 walked up to her, holding a torn notebook. You said you built a dream from pain, she said, voice shaking. I want to do that too. But I don't even know where to start. Sade knelt down and looked the girl in the eyes. You just did, she said. You spoke your dream out loud. That's how all revolutions begin. But with every step forward, the shadows still followed. Universities began questioning safe space methods. Some institutions saw it as rebellion, unofficial education, peer-driven, outside of their control. They are teaching things without degrees, one professor complained online. They are showing up the system, another said in an interview. Sade read the comments and felt the old knot of fear start to return. But this time, she smiled. Because now, she had platforms. Supporters. Power. She replied publicly, calmly. We are not against universities. We are building the support they forgot to give. The message went viral again. A youth senator shared it with a caption. This is the future of education in Africa. One evening, Sade returned to her old campus for the first time in over a year. She walked through the library doors slowly, every creak of the wood like a memory whispering her name. The walls were still lined with books. But something was different. On the back shelf, someone had placed a framed photo. A picture of her and Tamuno, smiling on launch day, holding up the Safe Space logo with shaky hands. Below it, a plaque read, "In honor of those who built from shadows." Sade didn't cry. She just stood there and whispered, "Thank you." To the floor she once slept on. To the hunger that made her strong. To the girl who never gave up, even when no one was watching. Later that night, as she sat with Tamuno outside their new shared apartment in Lagos, she asked softly, "Do you ever think about how close we were to losing everything?" Tamuno nodded. "Every day." Sade smiled faintly. "And now we're here." Tamuno raised a bottle of malt. To everyone who never got the chance. To every Sade still hiding in a library. Sade lifted hers too. To Safe Space. They clinked bottles. And the sound was louder than any applause. Weeks later, Sade gave a TEDx talk titled, "What the System Didn't Teach Me, and Why I Had to Teach Myself." Millions watched. And when asked what advice she had for young people with nothing but pain in their hands, she said, "Start from where it hurts the most. That's where the truth lives. That's where the fire is." Sade never forgot where she came from. But she refused to be defined by it. She wasn't just a graduate. Or a founder. Or a girl who once slept between shelves. She was the one who turned silence into strategy. Suffering into service. Struggle into safe space. And long after the noise died down, after the interviews and the applause, the quiet revolution she sparked kept growing. One student at a time. One broken dream rebuilt. One girl rising out of the shadows.